a program manager at Microsoft, so my day-to-day job is working with my with engineers and designers to kind of figure out what is it that you guys from like a customer or partner site would like to have in the product. So during this talk, I'll be kind of sharing with you a little bit about like what we've been building on, what we've been designing. But at any time you have a question, you can just raise your hand, go to the mic, maybe come up with a question. I'll also have some time at the end to kind of answer some questions. So in general, just, yeah, I want to have a little bit of a conversation. I know we're a lot of people, but usually if I forget something, a question comes up about it. So that's usually great. All right, so like I said, I'm Miriam, so I'm going to walk you through today about how transforming CRM into a system of empowerment for your sales representative might look like. It is a lot about sales insights. So if you've been just at the keynote, there's the first demo once we went into the demo section about the products, about Malibu boats. So we'll talk a little bit about some of the features that were shown in there, where we are today, where we're going, and yeah, I hope you have a good time. All right, so just before we start, whoops, what's that? All right, just before we start, who in general is familiar with Dynamics 365 for sales? Awesome, so that's great. Who is familiar with Sales Insights? Okay, all right, so by end of this talk, I hope all of you will be familiar with Sales Insights. All right, so who's familiar with the Dynamics 365, the Relationship Assistant in Dynamics 365 for Sales? Great, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. In general, you just saw the digital feedback loop. I like to just kind of start off with that similar, well, if you've just been in the keynote, you see this slide. Different background, but same slide. So basically, as James was talking about it, when we are looking at all of our products, all of our capabilities, what we look at is, okay, how can we think about this digital feedback loop. So the digital feedback loop, what it has, it's at the center is data. Data is coming from a lot of different places. It's coming from your customers, your products, your people, and your operations. Out of that data, we can create intelligence. Sometimes it's just a smart query about what is happening on that data. Sometimes it's a sophisticated AI model that you can build on top of that data. The idea is that, well, you provide data into your process, but you always get you provide intelligence into the process and you get data back. So it's kind of like this loop continuously going back and forth between generating data, analyzing data, generating data, analyzing data. What we'll get out of that is that we'll be able to, if we get this feedback loop right and provide our sellers with a better understanding of the data that they have, they can engage customers more effectively. We can transform products rather than just like understanding how just seeing that something's not performing right, but actually giving like predictive measurements in terms of, hey, this machinery in like some manufacturing company is going to fail. How can you should be looking at that. We can optimize our operations and we can empower our people. So in terms of like HR or talent type things. So in general, like we've been having different products, different implementations in these different parts of this loop. And so for today, or for this session, we'll be concentrating on that left side of the loop. So we're talking about like how can we engage customers more effectively, especially in that area around sales. So Microsoft had like had a Forrester study done a couple years ago, and they asked a bunch of sales organizations to tell them, hey, what is like what's driving you? What is making you like concerned, or what do you need to what are you thinking about? So, and we kind of looked at it and kind of think about, okay, well, if we're building this product, that Sales Insights, that is kind of going to improve that way. So how can we improve that, and like what are some of the things that came up a lot? Well, one of the numbers that stood out is that 34% of the sales organizations think that their sellers spend too much time in updating CRM, which is interesting because in one time the organizations are actually the ones that are saying, hey, you need to use CRM as a seller. You need to kind of put in that information so I can understand where my sales is, like how much money am I going to make, all of that. But they're still finding that their sellers are spending too much time in it. If you ask the sellers, their probably number would be 100% are saying they spend too much time in CRM. They would prefer talking actually to the sellers directly, to the customers directly. So one of the things that we're looking into is like how can we, with Sales Insights, how can we improve seller productivity in general? So how can we make, James was saying things like, well, forms over data. How can we make that not be as tedious as it is today? Like how can we make it, make the system work for the seller versus for the organization so that they don't just feel like, oh, I need to enter this close date so that my manager doesn't call me tomorrow that I didn't enter it. So how can we improve your seller productivity? How can we increase their engagement CRM? Actually, in the end, increasing some of the data quality that can provide you better insights, better intelligence on top. The other thing that I think is interesting to mention, I don't know if James was talking about, but in general, you know that, well, businesses are transforming. So and we see that in the sales environment as well, right? So we are seeing that if you're a buyer like before, like maybe a few years ago, you would, as like a buyer in like a bigger company, you would be like, well, I would like to buy Exchange. Let me call the Microsoft salesperson or my partner and ask them what about the new features about Exchange or Office 365 or something. And then the salesperson would come in and explain all the features. The problem is, well, not the problem, but most buyers are now actually looking for those things. They can read our release notes. They can read on the internet. They see other people talking about it. So they're very well informed. So suddenly, they're coming to you as a seller at like a later point. And they don't ask you, or they don't want you to tell them about like what a great product this is. They want to know, how is this product relevant to me? Like, what is it more successful? So interestingly, so that's why 76% of sales organizations see that now these customers are asking for this personalization, for that more information on like, be more educated about like what I'm doing. And so with Sales Insights or with some of these things, we're trying to see how can we get you be more personalized. Like if you, as a seller, are spending too much time entering data, you probably don't have time to actually start thinking about, okay, well, I'm pitching now to this airplane company. What is it that they need to take care of? Because that takes time. So how can we start including into these processes ways of starting to be more personal, be better prepared? So these are like the two drivers that we've been like kind of thinking about. How can we kind of, and then they come hand in hand. So how do we do that? So we know like we want to make sure that the sales agility is basically is always there, even though your environment is changing. And another thing that's always really interesting about changing environment is products are changing so fast. So we see that from our own sales force. If like James showed you, 400 new features that are coming into the Dynamics 365 Power Platform and everything. And so as a seller for these things, I feel sometimes a little sad because they all need to know everything about it. And they need to be talking about it very, very sophisticated. So how can we help them be knowing about what they need to talk about? So how can we help them in this changing environment not to be feeling overwhelmed, to still stay productive? So 3 things that we're kind of going to see over the next 50 minutes or so is like how can we use different features in our system to make your approach to selling more personal? How can we make it more proactive so that rather than the customer coming to you, how can you be more proactive, telling your customer about new things, about interesting stuff that they might be interesting for them? And then in general, how do we make you more productive because we are helping your sellers be more focused on their sales versus focusing on entering a date. In general, when we in the product group talk about different, about designing some of those products, we usually look at something we call personas. So personas for us is who is it that we're designing for? And in general, in sales, there's these 4 main personas, and my demos in the next few minutes is going to be revolving around what are we doing for each of these personas, or parts of some of these personas. Anyway, so first persona is Nancy. Nancy's our salesperson. She's the person interacting directly with the customer, needing to, working on their relationship with them, and closing the deals. Then we have Sam, our inside seller. So he's working on doing calls, cold calling, lead qualification, and then a new persona that we are starting to explore with and touch on today is Sue, our sales enablement or sales operations. So who in your who in this room has sales enablement or sales operations in their organization? Raise your hand. Okay. Yeah, so sometimes there's a difference between what does sales operations do? Do they just implement my processes, or are they actually the ones that kind of work with maybe sales leadership or somebody to kind of understand, okay, what is it that we want to drive? What is it that we want to achieve? So maybe there's a new product that you want to push, or maybe there's some streamlining in the process that you would like to understand. So we're starting to kind of look into how can we improve some of the insights that sales operations or sales enablement can get and provide to their sellers. And then lastly, we also have Kevin, our sales manager. So there's a couple things that we've been doing, and which talk about how can sales managers get more insights into the data that they are collecting, and how can they drive then better engagement with their sellers as well. All right, so let me start with Nancy, our salesperson. Like I mentioned, so her main goal or her main driver is customer engagement, working with their customer, trying to become that trusted advisor, because it's more and more important not to just be knowledgeable of what you're selling, but it's also important about the relationship that you built with your customers. Do you know everything that they said? Do you know what they need, what your customer needs? And once you build that very trustful relationship, it becomes easy for you as a seller to probably close that deal. All right, so let me talk about some of the intelligence that we're kind of infusing into the sales process to kind of make life for Nancy a lot easier. All right, so you can see on the slide, we kind of mapped some of our features into a sales process, a very standardized process. Everybody in this room will probably have a different one. So this is just kind of summarizing this. So in Sales Insights, there's what we try to do is that we can say, all right, here's some areas that we see as pain points for sellers. So what can we do during these pain points to kind of help them be smarter at what they can do? And so let me walk you through that and give you a little bit of context what each of them are. Basically, if you're familiar, since most of you are familiar with Dynamics 365, these are kind of components that we kind of embed in different places, and I'll show you how that looks like in a little bit into the sales process in general. So let's start from the beginning. So we start with a lead. So lead comes in. A lot of leads come in, maybe. Marketing has qualified them for me. Now, as a seller, I need to figure out, okay, which one of those 100 leads should I start following up on? One of the features or functionalities that we added is something called lead scoring. Lead scoring is providing you with a score on the likelihood to convert this lead. So meaning, if the higher the score, the more likely this is going to become an opportunity. The way that we're doing that is basically we're looking at all your past leads, and we are understanding which ones were successful, which one actually did qualify into an opportunity. And then we understand, okay, these are the characteristics of these leads. So maybe your company is really good at selling to a banking industry. So every lead that now comes in about the banking industry will get a higher score. There's some questions that usually come up around, okay, well, how can I configure this? So how does that work in my business, or what are some of the things that I can do? There are some ways you can, we have an out-of-the-box lead scoring model that is going to be, that's available for everybody, and you can start seeing it and applying it and see how that works for you. With some of the announcements about like AI Builder just now, you can expect this is to become more and more customizable in the future, so just FYI for that. All right, so once I understand, okay, this is the lead I want to go after. What is it? The next step is, okay, well, now I have this person that I need to talk about this lead, Anna Littman. Well, I don't know this person. So what is it that I can do to kind of understand, well, how do I get to know this person? That's where the feature Who Knows Whom comes in. So Who Knows Whom is supposed to help you understand in your organization if there is somebody that maybe knows Anna. So let's say I'm trying to reach out to Anna. I see in my CRM, okay, these 5 people in my organization know her. The question is, how do I know? How does CRM know that I know this person? So what we're doing is we kind of look at everybody in your organization, or in my organization. Did they have some type of connection to her? This is mainly based off of Office 365 data. So the nice thing about when you look at, like, when you remember the funnel that James was showing earlier about, like, well, we are built on top of data. One of the biggest data sources that Microsoft has is Office 365 and Exchange. So if you're talking about reaching out to customers, understanding relationship between me and your customer, a lot of this stuff happens in your emails, in your phone calls. It doesn't happen in CRM. So with Who Knows Whom, what we're trying to do is kind of look at that data that you are accumulating in your Exchange and try to kind of create insights out of it. So if you take by Who Knows Whom, we kind of see, all right, who had some conversation with Anna, and based on like how many conversations they had, we kind of show you on that little graph thing. So how is the connection strength? How is like how close are you? So once I understand, well, I know this, I want to work on this lead. I know Anna, or I get an introduction to work with Anna. I progress towards maybe exchanging some emails, some phone calls. One of the functionalities that we're kind of enabling sellers with is, well, it's interesting. I send an email, and it's interesting to know that did I get some email from it? Did they open this email? Did they open my attachment? So with email engagement, you'll be able to kind of say, all right, here's, you're able to say, you can kind of track that email in a similar way of how you currently track marketing emails, just like on a one-on-one basis. So you can start getting information, or you can get information back if somebody opened this. So then once, okay, I have some email communication, this lead progresses into an opportunity. And same thing then again. So now, rather than I have a bunch of opportunities, so how am I prioritizing all my opportunities? So one of the things that we added is the opportunity scoring. Similar to lead scoring, you can see based on some characteristics in your successfully closing opportunities, you can see which ones are the ones that are likely to succeed. Once I kind of have more conversations in that whole phase, I have, like, maybe I'm taking notes, so that's now at the bottom, the notes analysis. I take notes. The notes analysis helps me, like, when I take notes, automatically create some of the information. I get, again, on the right top, I get auto capture. Auto capture captures automatically all your information that you're getting from Dynamics Office 365. So if you're sending an email inside of Office 365, you can automatically see that in Dynamics. So you can say, as a seller, okay, I want to make this this email. I see it. I didn't track it in CRM because I was being lazy, or I didn't realize that I should track it, but I see it, so I can say, all right, now let's track it easily without needing to find, like, the right opportunity, the right fields, and so on. Once I had more conversations, like how can we improve, like more and more conversations that I'm having, there's something that we call the relationship analytics. So that's at the bottom in the middle. And I'll talk a little bit, I'll show all of this in like a short demo in a little bit. So relationship analytics now looks at all the conversations, all the emails that you had with a certain customer, and it takes all of that and creates like some insights on top of it. It says, hey, well, your relationship with this person is kind of declining because at some point you had like a lot of conversations. They were talking back to you. Now you're just sending emails and they're not responding to you. Something's not right, something's wrong. So kind of allowing you to understand how your relationship with this customer is working or not working. So as a seller, I can understand from the beginning, when I started with the lead scoring, to like working on an opportunity, where is my relationship with this person? Is it good? Is it not good? Then at the last point at the right top, I see the talking points. So again, power of Office 365 that we can connect to, we can understand maybe interesting icebreakers or talking points that you would like to kind of bring up with your customer. So maybe they sent you an email talking about their last vacation. So next time you talk to them, you can actually start building that relationship by mentioning that vacation, asking them about how it was, if the weather was great. And so you're kind of using different data across Dynamics, across Office 365, you can see more and more insights. And across all of that, you have the relationship assistant, or we are starting to call assistant as well. So if you hear assistant or relationship assistant, just think about it's the same thing. So basically, along the whole process, along the whole way, the relationship assistant gives you, tries to expose to you what is your next best action. So it kind of looks at, hey, this opportunity score is really high. It can tell you this is the opportunity you should go after. It can go into like, okay, this relationship health is dropping. This is what you should do. This is where you should focus on now. There's an email that was open. This is what you should now follow up on that. So the relationship assistant is this place every seller can go to and kind of see, okay, from all my opportunities leads, these are the things that that are useful for me right now. All right, so just kind of, this is kind of the whole process where we're infusing different types of intelligence and AI into the process of a seller. Just kind of a quick, for the assistant itself, just to kind of show you, there's mainly two things that we're investing in right now. One is the assistant in Dynamics itself, so it's integrated into Dynamics 365 for sales. The other one is the integration into Microsoft Teams. And with that, I'm actually going to switch now to a demo of what it looks like in Teams. All right, so this, if you've been in the keynote, you saw this in like, I don't know, 20 seconds. So it's always a lot, so I'll be spending a little bit more time on it now. So the Dynamics 365 Assistant is supposed to be this place that you as a seller go to understand, okay, what is it that I should be doing next? So in the morning, when I wake up, I might see this, I go to my assistant, I kind of try to figure out, okay, what is it that I need to do today? So at first, I see a bunch of meetings that are happening today. Interestingly, rather than just showing me the meetings, because we are part of the Sales Insights, part of CRM, we show you directly, okay, what are some of the accounts, contacts, and opportunities this is associated to? So with one click, you can go from the meeting to actually that opportunity, understand more, drill in more, maybe update that close date that you forgot to update. You can see all of your meetings that you have, and then at the bottom, you see next best actions or next things that I should be doing as part of the assistant. And you can see, if you're familiar, some of you are familiar with the relationship assistant, something's interesting here because it doesn't, like up until a few months ago, the main thing that we showed you in the assistant are things like close date is coming up, due date has passed. Maybe we talked about like, hey, here's an email that was not, where we detected something. Now you can actually see there's some other things in there. And some of the things that I want to talk about is today about how can you start extending the assistant to kind of match your company's needs. So how can you use actually Microsoft Flow to kind of create some of those insights and just show them to your sellers so that you don't not only talk about like the things that we at Microsoft thought were really useful to sellers, but actually that are relevant to you and your organization. So just to kind of, and we'll get back to that as well. So once we, let's go back to the meeting that we had. So if I open my meeting, I can see a quick overview of what's happening in this meeting. I can see my participants. I can drill into them. Once I drill into them, it's not my Office 365 data or anything. It's my Dynamics 365 information that is shown here. You can drill in the account. I can see the timeline of what I had in the past with them. And then I can also see who knows whom. So if this is a meeting I'm going to where I might not know a person that maybe my customer has forwarded to. So I can go into who knows whom, understand who in my company might know this person. Maybe I can get some information from them beforehand to kind of understand, hey, what is this person? Are they supportive of our solutions? Are they supportive, or do I need to be careful of what I tell them about? Do they have some issues? So I can reach out in my organization and learn more and kind of be better prepared for that meeting. And then at the bottom, I see some talking points. So again, before I go into that meeting, I can have some information or some talks, some suggestions I can talk about with them. So maybe I talk about the Seattle Seahawks. Maybe I talk about the fishing that they've done. So kind of get my icebreakers, build that relationship, and become that trusted advisor to them. When going back into the meeting, I also get what is it, the opportunity this is regarding to. Again, the timeline I had with this opportunity, and the related insights. So not just seeing the next best action overall across all my opportunities and leads, I can see the targeted to this opportunity, to this meeting. And so maybe for one of the insights or next best actions I set up was providing some content. So let's say I'm going to that meeting. You as a sales operations team or sales enablement, you really want them, if they go into these proposal meetings, to use a specific type of presentation or a pitch deck or something like that. So usually it's really hard for you to kind of figure out how to show that. There's different options that you have. You can either use in SharePoint that's integrated. There's other partners that you can use. We've been working a little bit with Seismic, which is a sales enablement platform to do content recommendations. And so you can use a lot of different tools to start providing content and to the sellers. With the next best action, in the assistant, you can start saying, well, here, this is the content that you should be using. This is showing it in line of the assistant, like it's part of that whole experience. You can start recommending maybe a product. So maybe you have we had a pre-day workshop yesterday where we kind of looked at Customer Insights. Customer Insights is a platform within Dynamics 365 that lets you create AI on top of, bring all your customer data together and build intelligence on top of that, information around the usage of certain products. And you can start thinking about, okay, what are some of the trends that are happening in my product? So how can I maybe have a set of recommended products that I would like to have you pitch as a seller? So not only am I seeing, okay, what should I be using? I can drill in maybe that PowerPoint presentation. I can also see what is it that I might need to talk about and prepare myself. Maybe that is what they might be bringing up, because that's what we kind of figure out here. All right, so now as Nancy, I prepared my day looking at my phone. I go to my desktop. I go back to This is Washington, so in case you've never seen Seattle or the area around it, the Cascades, welcome. When I go back to my desktop, I go back to I open my CRM, I expect to see the exact same things that I just saw, and you can. So basically, using our sales product, we are integrating all of the sales insights, all of the assistant capabilities into it as well. So once you go to your dashboard, so me as Nancy, I could see, or I can see the relationship assistant again. I can drill into the opportunity that we just drilled in a while ago. I can see the same information. I can drill back into that contact if I want to. I see, again, that who knows whom. Some of the talking points I can find. And so there's a lot of the same information that you saw on mobile you can see again on the desktop. You can also see here that in my timeline for this opportunity, I can now see, well, there's this email that I sent about like some discussion that I need to do. This is what I talked about earlier, the auto capture capabilities that we have. So we kind of, once you connect your Office 365 Exchange mailbox to this system, we kind of look for, hey, these are things that might be relevant for this, and we suggest it to you. You as a seller still have the idea of like, well, do I want to share this with my company or not? You can easily hit track, and it becomes part of the system afterwards. If you're interested of like, well, I'm now thinking about, should I actually go to this meeting? Maybe I'm not relevant, or maybe I don't need to be there, or I don't know, how much time do I need to spend on it? I can use the opportunity scoring, like I mentioned before, that you can understand how likely is this to close. What are some of the factors that might be good for me or not good for me? So I can see the score, the grade meaning how we can kind of, as an organization, you can provide, these are like, if an opportunity is within one of these 3 scores, you can say this is grade A, so it's good, it's a good score, so you should go after it. If it's a bad score, you should not go after it. You see some of the reasons why we think this is a good score. And then at the bottom, you can see also on what I was talking about before, the relationship analytics, which is a way for us to understand, well, the opportunity score tells you based on the characteristics and previously closed opportunities, this is the opportunity that you should go after. If you are in, the relationship score tells you how well is my opportunity going with that customer, like how is that relationship going. I can drill into more details, and I have to switch to a screenshot here, but I can drill into the details of that opportunity, of that relationship analytics, and I can start seeing why maybe this relationship is poor. You can see how much, what was the response rate from your, what was the response rate from your customer, what was the response rate from your customer, who did you talk to the most, what is like some of the response times, and so on. So with using the assistant in Teams, using Dynamics 365 with the embedded features, I can, as a seller, really easily understand, okay, what is it that what I can do, what I need to do, where's my relationship at this point with this customer. So just to kind of, so this kind of summarizes the demo of like what is it that we can do for Nancy or for our salesperson. Just to kind of give a quick pause. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions on that so far before we switch into the next type of features? All right. Yeah, go ahead.
The predictive information, that's strictly information in your organization. It has nothing to do with any kind of statistics outside of your organization that you see in the industry, things of that nature.
All right, so the question is if the predictive information that we're showing is like strictly part of what's in your organization and not something that's outside. So yes, so the scoring that we're showing is mainly based on what you are in your, what you have in your tenant in your org. It's also just your org, so it's not somebody else's org. So there are some questions on that, but one of the things that always comes up that is like, well, but I would like to have some other sources. I would like to have, the way this is currently set up is, well, we have some standard fields that we look at and decide like what is it that works. With some of the new capabilities around like extending AI, building your own AI, using some of the AI builder capabilities earlier today, we are looking into how can we make it more customizable using that whole Power Platform of like, well, here's your Dynamics data, here's your like connector maybe to your other system. How can we now use maybe additional fields and start more customization? But that's not possible at this point, so that we're working on that in the future. So Yeah, go ahead.
Relationship health, what attributes go into calculating relationship health?
All right, so the question was like, what are the attributes that are going into calculating the relationship health? So mainly it is, currently we're looking at mainly the frequency, how many times have you, like how often was an email sent, how often a meeting or a phone call was made, and we're using information coming from Office 365 as well as the ones that is in your Dynamics data, so if you track it, then you can kind of combine them. And then the metrics we just generate as like, okay, we have like some weighting in between, but this is again not yet very customizable, so you cannot say, well, my business is very meeting heavy, so I want to kind of overemphasize on that, and that's not at this point possible, but yeah. Yeah?
So if you spin up a new environment and you're not using the UI, you're just using the class interface,
Yeah.
you still get the opportunity of exploring the just pre-installed, or you have to install it from the app source.
All right, so the question is like, if you just spin up an environment, do you need to do some extra steps in order to get this information? So yeah, so this you would have to add, you have to go to AppSource and install that again. So if you're using maybe creating a demo or a trial or something, that's a separate step to get some of these features. So yeah, there's a place where we kind of, I'll go into that in the next demos, like a little bit where the sales operations, sales teams, where we're kind of trying to kind of help you get it installed, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Yeah. All right, so the question is, who knows whom are we connecting to LinkedIn? Not at this point. So there's two reasons, or like one main reason. It's been like we need to figure out how we best connect with them, and like we are building more and more our capabilities to connect to LinkedIn. So there's actually a session, I think later today, talking about relationship selling and how we connect to LinkedIn. The other thing that we found is like in Who Knows Whom, LinkedIn is great to know, okay, do you have a connection to the person? But most of your conversations or the strength of your connection is actually not well, like, at least at this point, not very well documented in LinkedIn, but it's actually your conversations over email. So we can get a much stronger signal of like how well you're connected through exchange. But LinkedIn is definitely something we're looking into, and we are creating more and more integration points with them. But there's always, we need to see, it's a fine line that we need to walk in general because we don't want to sell out that data, right? So it's kind of a fine line. But again, this afternoon, Gopika from our team, she's going to talk about more of our LinkedIn stuff as well if you're interested. Yeah?
Is the Dynamics 365 Assistant a standalone app, or is that feature just built into it?
So at this point, it's built into Sales. It's not a standalone app at this point. We are looking into how can we, maybe that's something. So I encourage all of you, if you have something that's not working and not there yet, or you would like to have, we have an area in the Sales, in the ideas side. Just put it in there. Also helps me if I need to go to James or somebody, say, hey, I really want to invest into that. I get feedback from the community that they might want to use it for services or for marketing or for something else, or just as a standalone thing, will help me to kind of make that point. So just in general, I encourage you to look at the ideas side, the community, so that we can, yeah.
So more specifically to just like the app you have downloaded on your device.
Yeah.
Is that like the native Dynamics 365 app?
Oh. Okay, so the question, like, kind of clarifying is like, is it part of the native app, or is it just a separate app? So actually, what I just showed you is actually integrated into Microsoft Teams. So Teams provides you, maybe I can switch to that again. Okay, come on, unlock. All right. Anyway, so Teams. Provides you with the ability to add an app into it. And so that's what we've been doing. The relationship assistant in general, though, is also part of the mobile client of Dynamics 365. So it's both is kind of integrated in different places. So, yeah. Yeah?
When doing demos of the sales AI stuff, it
Yeah.
helps to have lots and lots of data.
Yeah.
Like 500 opportunities, 500 leads.
Yeah.
Does Microsoft offer any demo data sets for partners to demo this?
So we have the demos.microsoft.com site. I notice lead scoring and opportunity scoring doesn't work there. So I noticed that when I was preparing for some of this. So yeah, we'll be working on adding the data into it as well. So then, yeah, it's going to be easier. Just as sorry, the question was like, how can we get better demo data as partners? And so, yeah, okay. All right, so let me move forward and a little bit. So now we'll talk about Sue, our enablement manager, Sue operations. So we kind of touched about on some of these things already about like so I have now all these great functionality now. How can I make this work for my organization? How can I update that? And so I call this the configuring your intelligence, and we're just starting into some of these areas. And you actually saw parts of it during the keynote as well. One of the things that we're working on is called the Assistant Studio. So the Assistant Studio is a way to, how can we now take that assistant that is shown in Teams, is shown in Dynamics, on the mobile app, how can we make that more for my organization? How can we update that? And then I kind of want to touch quickly also about some of the other things that you can configure, other insights that you configure that place. So I'll be going into that demo. All right, so actually go into this. So if you are in, let's go. If you're Open Dynamics 365 for sales, you land somewhere like this, which is our dashboard or an entity. At the bottom right left corner, there is something called Sales App Settings. Once you click on App Settings, you go to a page like this, which has a bunch of things where you can start configuring your sales app specifically. It's not necessarily assigning users or licenses or anything, but you can start thinking, okay, what are my products that I want to use? What are some of the goals my organization wants to use? And there's also an area for sales intelligence or sales insights. Once you click on it, you get a quick overview about like some of the features that are coming that I was just talking about. The assistant, email engagement, auto capture, relation lead scoring, opportunity that we added in the April release, or now we're calling it release wave 1. Back 3 months ago is something around forecasting. So Microsoft in general was a little bit weak on some of the manual forecasting, and what we're trying to do now is using predictive analytics or predictive analytics to kind of look at how likely is an opportunity to close, when is it likely to close, and at how much, and we're starting to explore with some of these features right now. So you could go in and configure, sign up for the preview, so it's available right here. So you could just kind of start looking into that. It's mainly, I think, valuable for managers and to kind of understand, hey, where am I going? So what I wanted to show you is, the lady here in the front is talking about, like, well, I do need to have a lot of information and lead scoring just to kind of start this. You could, once you actually have enough information, so currently you need to have about 1,000 leads and opportunities in there so that we can run our model properly. Once you do have that information in there, you can see what is it, how is this lead scoring model performing. We have that model that we created. We kind of train it on your data and tell you, hey, how accurate is it? How likely is it? How good are we at predicting outcome using our model in your data? You can decide if you want to apply that, meaning that you will create all the information on the UI that you want. You can think about like the grades that I was talking about. You can start configuring that, all of that. The other thing, so now let me switch into the assistant. So the Assistant Studio is the place now where you can go in as like an organization, as a partner, and you can start now creating your own next best actions. So that is done actually using Microsoft Flow. So again, we're trying to leverage that whole Power Platform, so make it as easy to kind of connect everything together, not be too separated from each other. So in this list, you'll see the relationship assistant has a bunch of out-of-the-box cards that we thought at some point would be really useful. So we added them in here. So when you scroll down, you see all of these. These cards in there, and you can kind of start configuring them. You can go in, create a new card. When you create a new card, you get from us, so if you're familiar with Microsoft Flow, they have this concept of templates, meaning like some pre-configured flows of like workflows of what you can do. We provided like a few that you could start off with. So if you want, you can start clicking on what you can click on one of them. You'd be moved into Microsoft Flow. You configure the connections that you want to use, and then you can start kind of seeing, hey, the one that I selected is my relationship health has been dropping, so that relationship analytics piece that we saw before has been going down. I want to notify my sellers about it through the assistant, and so you can go use this flow. You see how we set it up, and you can start saying, okay, well, this is the threshold of the relationship health that I want to have, and this is the assistant UI that I would like to, or card that I would like to create. So this is basically the nice thing about Flow is that, well, you can think about anything that you would like to, want to create. So within Flow, you have like hundreds of different connectors that you can connect to. So when we are talking with like other customers, they always come up, well, but I have like this data in like this, maybe they create like some model, some data science model maybe, but they just have this data in the SQL database that they would like to, maybe it's contract renewal dates. Like one of the things that I looked at is like I have an Excel sheet where I put like contract renewal dates, and maybe that's something that you have in an Excel or in a SQL database, but within Flow you can just connect to that and then start saying, hey, well, if this is coming up, actually I want to have my sellers go and create an opportunity and go and create, look into that and build on top of that. So with that, using Flow, using the assistant, you can start kind of pushing your sellers into what they need to do next. So once you created a card or an assistant insight or next best action, you can go in and kind of analyze a little bit, and that's where we're kind of going, where it's not like if you sign up, so this is part of the it's part of the preview in April, so you can just go to your system and just enable the preview, and you can start seeing some of this show up. Something that we're like starting to work on is how can we provide you with better insights of what is it that you've been, how is your card performing, how does it work? So if I go to the cards that are created by me, I can see one of the scenarios I showed you earlier was about suggested content coming from Seismic. So I can look into, I can drill into that card, that type that I created. So now I created this flow once. Now whenever a stage changed, I can drill into the flow. Once that stage changed, I actually go into, let's see this, I get the opportunity. The stage has changed. If this stage changed to develop, I go to Seismic, get predictive content for that specific content, and then for that specific opportunity, and then I create a card. What I would like to know is, well, how well is this performing? Are my sellers using it? And some of the things that we are adding now is the ability to kind of see what is happening with your card. What is it that your sellers are doing with it? So you as an organization can start thinking about, well, this is working well, this is not working well. You can get like information about, did they click on it? Did they find it useful? You can start acting on it. So if, for example, in this case, I see that the opportunity, the card is not visible enough, I can change the display settings. So display settings actually is a way for us to kind of say, well, I create all these actions, they're all there, but the problem is I need to prioritize them in some way. So some things need to go higher than others because I only have a limited space. So one way for you as an organization to do that is using a simple flag, say this is high priority, so that should go first. So you can do that. Or the other option is, and always happy to hear feedback in general, is about like you can start optimize that ranking. So what we do, we have some rules in the back end that kind of say where we can see, and this is improving over time, like which we should show first. But sometimes we don't know what is necessarily good for you and your organization. So you can start creating rules saying, hey, whenever this is a card that's related to an account with a higher revenue, this should go up. So you can have like some ways of controlling this functionality. All right, so this is some of the configuration that you can do. There are some, I will go a little bit deeper tomorrow, later this afternoon in some of that functionality. But today actually the manager persona. So this one. Sales managers. So sales managers are very much driven by what can I do to help my team. So one of the things that we are starting to look into is how can we provide more help to sales managers. And the first thing that we're kind of looking into is like how can we improve actually sales managers of how can we improve the work sales managers are doing in with their sellers in like an inside sales center or sales call center. Currently, when you're a sales manager in an inside sales center, you need to go and you need to understand, hey, what's going on with my team? What's going on? Where are they? You need to listen to every single call of your sellers to understand what's working well, what's not working well. You saw a little bit of a different UI at the keynote where he showed you some insights that were generated. So this is in the keynote, that's where we want to go. This is where we are right now. Basically, what we're doing is that you as an organization or as a sales manager, you can kind of get all your sales recordings or all your call recordings, get it together, put it into the system, and you can start seeing more insights around it. So we start analyzing, we transcribe it for you, we start analyzing it, we figure out like some insights around it, for example, that they might have not talked about a certain product a lot. You can see how often certain things were mentioned, what's the trackers, what's the sentiment, how much did they talk about it, about certain things, how was their conversation style, how did your sellers talk versus listen. And you can kind of start drilling into why maybe one person is kind of doing better than another. Why is one seller doing better than another? You can spend, now rather than spending hours and hours and hours listening to your sellers, you can get like all of that information in like one view, learning more about like what is it that needs to be, that you can do about the performance of your sales team. So that was a quick overview of some of these things. Actually, no. All right. So now, to just kind of, because we have like another 7 minutes, let's do this. So I kind of just wanted to kind of wrap up of like what we saw over the last 50 minutes or so. So I showed you a little bit about what are we doing for Nancy, our sales persona, how are we embedding different capabilities in intelligence capabilities into the sales process. We then moved over to Sue, how she can actually configure and manage some of these processes, some of these next best actions, some of these things, and then kind of give you a quick update of like what is it that you can do for Kevin, or what Kevin can do with like his sales management. So just now, kind of before I open it up for questions. So in general, just to kind of get an idea of like actually who knows more about sales insights, of what the capabilities are than they did before. Awesome. All right, goal achieved here. Who thinks that leader opportunity scoring isn't something that you would like to investigate for your organization? That's something that's useful. Raise your hand. Okay, great. How about relationship health or relationship analytics? Okay. Assistant and assistant studio, like that whole next best action, creating new insights. Okay. And then conversation intelligence or call intelligence, just Raise your hands. All right. Awesome. All right, so we have about 5 more minutes. I just kind of wanted to point out, this is my LinkedIn, I don't know, QR code. So if you have the LinkedIn app, you can kind of scan that QR code and connect with me. So if you have any questions or anything, just feel free to reach out to me. There's a couple other sessions today. So this afternoon, my skip level manager, Oren, is going to talk about the roadmap for sales and sales insights. So you'll be seeing some of the same things that I just shared with you. And then there's a deep dive a little bit more into the Assistant and Assistant Studio later today at the same time. So you can go wherever you want. Then I think tomorrow morning there's a sales overview session where Linda from our team is talking about like what is it that we're bringing to the sales platform in general. Then I mentioned the conversation intelligence. So I just showed you a quick peek of like what is it that you can do in call intelligence. You can learn more about that tomorrow morning. And then again, tomorrow afternoon, relationship selling, LinkedIn, anything that you would like to learn about that, you can go there as well. And then lastly, we always, so if you want to learn more about Seismic, they are at the expo as well. And then lastly, we always look for people to kind of help us form our product. So we really work closely with our user research team. So, and if you want to become part of the panel, if you want to become basically, what I do is like, I need to think about what is the next feature I would like to build. I work with my user research team, say, hey, I would like to talk to sales managers in like a small business, and can you help me with that? And so they build these panels to kind of talk about, to kind of reach out to. So if you would like to be participating in this user research type things, learn more, maybe quicker about what's happening, influencing our strategy, you can sign up for the panel, and then always reach out to our, go to our ideas site on the Sales Insights blog. I actually posted some more links to the assistant. So there's a bunch of information out there that you can use, you can have. And yeah, I'm always happy to hear feedback. So yeah, reach out to us. And opening it up now for questions. So 3 minutes, we had some in between. So maybe, I don't know if maybe some other questions at this point. Yeah.
The sales assistant is an app for Teams, but it's in a private preview.
Yeah.
How do we become part of that private preview?
So if you go to aka.ms/salesinsightsblog, there's a blog post at the very top that talks about the assistant, and there's a link into it that is contact us. Or you can just reach out to me directly. So either one works. So there's like a sign-up form. So then the private preview is not something that we spread out directly. So we kind of work on a one-on-one basis. So either reach out to me or find the sign-up link through the third block. Just sorry, I didn't repeat the question. The question was around how do I sign up for the private preview for the assistant in Teams? Go to our blog, connect to me. Happy to help you. Yeah?
How is it integrated with Teams out of the box? The CRM?
So the question is how is CRM integrated with Teams? So it is. So Teams provides like an app extensibility, add-in extensibility, and that's where we are integrated. And the idea is that we install it like automatically for you, so that basically you can. So it's like there's an app tray in Teams. I can show it to you in a little bit if you would like.
It's not a page in a channel.
Yeah. So it's a separate app. I'll show you in a bit if you want. Like, yeah.
Related to the call insights.
Yeah.
If you're using Office 365 as your calculation phone system,
Yeah.
is that automatically
So the question is like, if you use Office 365 as your call system, does it automatically pull in the information into call intelligence? So no, not at this point. We are working like it's very hands. It's also something that's still in preview. We kind of started off with like, wherever you have your call recordings, that's where we are on. We'll try. You give it to us for some time, and we process it. You take it away, and then we kind of show it. So, but I would encourage you, if you have more questions, come to the session tomorrow morning. They'll be talking a little bit more about like what the integrations are and where we're going and all of that. So, all right. Yeah.
One big thing that's been happening recently, I feel like, is sequence building when it comes to these people that are making it their call.
You do that within 365 where they can have auto email send out, have tasks or reminders. They'll say, hey, you got to call John Smith sometime this afternoon.
Yeah, so the question is like, there's like a trend around building sequence building, and do we have like, what is our answer, I guess, in Dynamics 365 for that? That's a good question, so we see that mainly happen in like inside sales, and so we're looking how can we kind of build that up. Right now, the things that we're looking into is like a combination of Microsoft Flow. That's where you can already automate sending emails, create tasks, create assistant tasks, and so that's where we are right now. It's kind of like a combination of Flow and the assistant, but we are looking to how can we maybe, if that works or not. So yeah, if you're interested in that, like reach out to me and we can start thinking about it more. Yeah. All right, any other questions at this point? All right, thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your conference. Thank you.